Hello everyone, Professor Kagan here. The Sims franchise has been around for 20 years, garnering critical praise, high sales, and a place in history as one of the most beloved PC game franchises in history. But we're going to talk about its home console variants. How does a game that depends so much on PC features fare on platforms that were quite different from PCs at the time? Well, we'll find out. The GameCube version of The Sims was released in March 2003. While the game features a game mode that allows you to control Sims and live out life as you see it, like the original release on PC, the first big difference, however, is a story mode, where you start out living in your mom's house, only to move out and complete goals set for you during the game. Completing these goals, however, isn't that easy, since you've got a complement of needs to satisfy and a mood to keep up. You've got your standard set of needs from the PC release: hunger, comfort, bladder, energy, fun, social, hygiene, and environment. You know the drill. To satisfy these needs, you must interact with Sims and objects. And here's where we start running into issues regarding the gameplay and satisfying needs, reaching goals. The game features a full 3D engine, unlike the original game, and to navigate it, you need a camera and a movement system. These two things are intertwined to a point, and to a detriment. The second stick on your controller only controls your angle of view and field of view within an area around your sim. To move that area, you must use the first stick in conjunction with the second. Kind of like the control scheme in Luigi's Mansion, except a little bit more wonky. This is how you issue commands to your sim as well, as you don't have direct control over them. The first stick manages a pointer or a highlighter. You must place it over an object or sim to interact with it, and add it to your queue of actions. Once you've got a list of actions, you select one and cancel it if you made a mistake. Say the second of 3 actions is wrong, you'd have to cancel the third action to get to the second. What I'm saying is you can't actually select which action to cancel. This can be annoying when trying to send your sim through multiple actions to up their needs. Speaking of needs, it takes quite a while for your sim to fill certain needs bars. Sleep, fun, and socializing, which is its own problem, are 3 big annoyances, and you'll constantly find yourself stopping story-related activities to satisfy these 3 in particular. Not to mention your mood meter. The small 8 bars just over your sim's face in the HUD, and it is tiny. It might be a nitpick, but it's hard for me to see and figure out whether my sim's mood is good enough to do anything with, and you absolutely need a good mood to accomplish anything in the game, like getting a promotion at work or even exercising. The goals themselves were rather easy to grasp, and once you got a plan in action, it's not hard to accomplish them quickly. When you move to a new building, you can accomplish the majority of the goals laid out for you in less than an hour. This is, of course, providing you're not hampered by needs or moods. The goal rewards are mostly objects, and they don't particularly help you get ahead much in game. The socialization is honestly fine, and my only gripe with it is that relationships decay quickly, and I do mean quickly. Within a couple days, your friend will act like they barely know you, and it's tough to juggle relationships, needs, and goals in the gameplay loop. The game isn't a bad start to the collection of console ports, as it firmly establishes that the classic Sims gameplay can work on a console, and it even does retain some of its charm. But I can't really recommend this one. It's too basic, and there's much better ports down the line that are more balanced and provide a tighter, more fluid experience. The Sims Bustin Out was released in December 2003, just 9 months after the previous title, and it's here where the console ports start to find their footing. Like the previous game, you're started out with your mom's home, with goals to guide you throughout the game. This time, however, we got a not-so-warm welcome from Malcolm Landgrab, who practically owns the entire town. He repossesses your scooter, which you'll later use to move between different locations in the game, and claims he'll take back everything the townsfolk owe him. The goals you're given guide you to restoring the things he took, and eventually becoming top dog in the town. This time around, needs and mood are much more manageable, aside from the 3 listed earlier. They can still be quite troublesome to manage, but your mood is easier to interpret thanks to a change in UI, making the mood bars larger. Like the previous game, your mood is everything, and is again used for jobs, activities, and the sort. Having an easier time with needs and mood helps with socialization, which is often part of your goals to advance in the game. While relationships still deteriorate rapidly without constant communication, it's easy enough to spend time chatting up a sim until your goal is met. Speaking of goals, they are much easier to complete, and the rewards are an upgrade from the previous game. You can receive an object or money for completing a goal. While it's a preset reward, it makes accruing wealth much easier than it was in The Sims. The camera and player control systems are lifted from the previous title. The highlighter's appearance has been changed, but its functionality is the same. Now, at this point, I would like to talk about some special features when it comes to the game. I can touch on two, as these are system-exclusive features, one for PlayStation 2 and one for GameCube. Starting with the latter, the GameCube version of The Sims Bustin Out can connect to the Game Boy Advance version via the Game Boy Advance to GameCube link cable. This unlocks an arcade machine that you can buy in the GameCube version, and as long as the Game Boy Advance is connected, you can play mini-games from the GBA version of Busting Out on the GBA screen at any time. You don't have to visit any of the locations within the game to access them. And the money you earned is for your sim on the GC side of things. Now, the PlayStation 2 featured an online mode called Online Weekend. It was essentially a cut-down version of the story mode, no building or buying or story progression. It's still a neat feature that hasn't really been explored in the Sims franchise as a whole. There's The Sims Online, but from what I understand, that didn't really last long. I know somebody's working on reviving it with a program called Simatone, but that's neither here nor there. The Sims Busting Out is a step above The Sims, and has a lot of charm in its cutscenes and shows a real step in balancing out the general gameplay so progression isn't as big of a headache as before. If you want a slightly more story-driven Sims game, then this might be for you. Or you could just play the Game Boy Advance version, which has a lot more dialogue and more plot-driven elements. Next up, we have the Herbs, Sims in the City. And I really don't know where to begin with this one. It might be the most interesting entry yet. It was released in November 2004. This game has your sim move to the city. You'll rub elbows with celebrities, perform stylish social moves, and work your way up to be the coolest sim the city has ever seen. The game starts out with you moving into your new apartment, accompanied by will.i.am. Yes, that will.i.am. And another character named Darius, who is the most popular dude in the city. They explain how the game's reputation system works and that you'll need to gain as much reputation as you can to progress in the game. It's sort of a leveling system, and points that you accrue to level up by talking to other Sims, or Herbs as they are called in this game. General progression is led again by goals given either by the game itself, or other players that you come across. Various Sims, I mean. You will be doing a lot of networking, talking, and schmoozing to further your interests within the game, using power socials, which are timed, pre-rendered animations used by your sim to heighten relationship points very quickly. For example, you can play a golden guitar to woo the person in front of you. I tended to use them as much as possible because I was more interested in other aspects of the game rather than talking to other Sims to grind reputation. You know what they say, art imitates life, and if I don't like talking to people, neither does my sim. Thankfully, needs have never ever been easier to satisfy. Not only because there's less of them, leaving only bladder, hygiene, hunger, fun, and energy, every location you visit in the game can help you satisfy these needs. Drink and snacks machines, buffets, bed, and some sort of bathroom area usually appear at every location you visit, limiting how often you need to go home. Usually the only thing you can't care for is hygiene, which decays rather slowly anyway as long as you're not dumpster diving. So that way you can make more time for story-related activities or talking to Sims. But no matter how happy you are or how much of a smooth talker you can be, you gotta do it in style. Every location features a building that sells clothing for your sim to purchase, clothing that you need to get into the clubs. These buildings are rabbit holes, a term that would later be widely used in the days of The Sims 3. though that had released a good 5 years after this game. To define rabbit hole would mean that it's a building that a sim goes into, but you can't. You cannot see the inside of it or what your sim is doing. To my knowledge, this is the first time this sort of thing appeared in a Sims game. What aren't rabbit holes, however, are your jobs. Instead of your sim disappearing in a car or a building, you get to accompany them to their place of work, which are mini-games you can play. From modeling on the runway to slinging Scrumpy in the bar, with a bit of practice, these jobs are easily done and can earn you a pretty penny. Pennies you can use to deck out your pad and even attract a furry friend. You can interact with your pet like you could do in Pets expansions of the PC games. Feed them, play with them, whatever you want. While all I've talked about so far are features and things you can do in the game, there's actually a bit of info I want to touch on before we move on to the next game. As you may have noticed, I mentioned that the pop star will.i.am appears in the game. He's not alone. Other members of his group, the Black Eyed Peas, also appear in the game. To make it even stranger, this game comes with an iTunes code to download the song Let's Get It Started in both English and Simlish. I would play it for you here, but man, copyright's fun, isn't it? It also comes with 2 other songs, and I actually have a code in my PS2 copy of the game. I'll show it here. I don't know if it's been redeemed, and if it hasn't, I don't even know if it even still can be. And to top this off, a toy line based on the herbs was going to be produced by Atomic Toys, but my sources indicate that the game failed to meet sales expectations, so the production was scrapped. Interestingly enough, though, if you were to navigate to Atomic Toys' website today, you'd be directed to a page about a smartphone app using the herbs IP. I suppose Atomic Toys bought the IP from Electronic Arts after the game failed and just kept it for a while. I don't have anything to back that up, that's just speculation on my part. I must say though, this smartphone game looks rather cheap and doesn't really carry the personality of the original game. It's a pity, really, because the herbs can be quite an enjoyable time when all is said and done. It's got quirks and somewhat uncomfortable facial animations, but out of the 3 games we've covered so far, this is probably the most enjoyable, and I recommend it the most out of the Sims 1 type of games, and I say that because this reuses a lot of assets from the previous games, and really just kind of fits within the same dynamic. The job minigames are fun, if a little bit repetitive. The character designs are rather unique and different looking than standard Sims fare, which does differentiate it from previous games. And the gameplay itself is easier to manage and melds together, and it's definitely worth looking into. I'd like to mention that going forward, none of the home console games have as much story content in the previous 3 games, while still maintaining new/different features and slowly reaching par with the PC releases. Released in October 2005, The Sims 2 revamped the Sims experience on consoles and set the standard going forward. While goals are present in this game, the story is pretty much non-existent. The characters you meet along the way will often give you a bit of backstory as to why you're completing these goals, but your player character doesn't seem to have much motivation themselves, unlike the previous games. Like, in the herbs, you want to become the coolest sim in the city. In the Sims and the Sims Bustin Out, you want to become top dog of the town by helping everybody out. But the plot is very easy to work through. The goals are clear and they're given one after the other. They're also given to multiple Sims. As the game goes on, you visit a variety of intriguing locations, and you'll have to satisfy the whims of other housemates who moved in as you progress. You can do this at your own pace, and Sims are able to take care of themselves when you're not controlling them. Needs management seems to only get better and better. They're all now easily remedied and allow you to continue working on your goals. Even the more pesky needs I mentioned earlier are more easily taken care of. Sleep is over quickly, fun is barely a problem, and socialization has been given a revamp to be more interactive and shows your progress with the Sims you're interacting with. Unfortunately, the Mood UI has been downgraded in this release. It was made smaller and harder to discern, at least for my poor eyes. Controls for your sim have been upgraded. The camera now rests purely on the controller's second stick, and you have the choice of classic Q control like in previous games, or you can directly move your sim with the control stick. I'm partial to the latter. I enjoy the direct control of the sim, and it makes me feel more immersed, rather than queuing up a list of things for the sim to do and wait for them to finish it. It feels more natural to move the character themselves. The smooth control is accompanied with changes to the game's engine. Loading times aren't as bad as previous games, the 3D graphics have been tightened up, and the game has had several new assets added. A fun addition to the game, not present in the PC versions, is a cooking system. This cooking system works by choosing from meats, veggies, fruits, grains, liquids, dairy, and so on. You can add 4 of these items to a plate, and then use a counter, appliance, or stove to make a dish that corresponds to the ingredients you chose. Recipes are included and can be unlocked in the game, but honestly, if you have a basic knowledge of cooking and what goes in what dish, you can usually figure it out for yourself. Like, for example, roast, you usually have beef, potatoes, carrots, and if you combine all of that into a dish, the game can figure out you're trying to make a roast. The Sims 2 for consoles is a really solid entry. It's well built, well balanced, and generally fun to play, and it's probably the definitive experience when it comes to The Sims on console, because it features the classic gameplay while firmly establishing its own feature set. I love the locations, the graphics, and the controls are simply sublime, but it's not quite my favorite. That's still yet to come. Okay, let's just get this out of the way. The Sims 2 Pets for consoles is pretty much a mix of the Sims 2 PC and console, with the addition of pets and pet-centered features. There's no story or goals, just old-fashioned Sims gameplay with pets. Strangely, you can name your neighborhood, but you can only visit the town square. Speaking of the town square, it's more like a downtown marketplace where several rabbit hole type buildings sell pet-related items, such as toys or grooming services or veterinarian services, and there's also a couple of food shops where Sims and pets can eat yummy treats. I bought my cat a cupcake and I thought it was pretty cute. The interesting bit is that these shops use their own currency though, and these are called pet points, and I don't really know why this was included. They're not hard to acquire. There's an exchange machine available at the town square, and the ratio is pretty good. It just seems like an unnecessary step between you and what you're there for. And this town square is really the only defining feature of the title. You can't even die in this version, whereas it was possible to die in previous entries, notably The Sims 2 for console. You could even battle the Grim Reaper with violins. It's pretty cool. It's just not really a feature-complete title, and I just heavily recommend skipping it. You'd be better off getting the base version of the game on PC and the Pets expansion pack that are not hard to find. We have finally arrived. We're here. We can now discuss my favorite out of the Sims console ports. The Sims 2 Castaway was released in October 2007 and was my first foray into survival crafting games. Based off the Sims Castaway stories, the game begins with the usual sim creation process, but the game has you choose an occupation. This will have been the job you had before becoming shipwrecked. What you choose will add 3 skill points to your sim to aid in survival. For example, I chose Park Ranger, which added 3 body skills to my sim. As I said, you get shipwrecked, and like previous games, you're given a set of goals to accomplish that will aid you in finding your way back to civilization. This is what most of the story consists of, but you can find relics and hints of a primitive civilization living there long before you ever arrived. Eventually, you could even explore one of their temples, but this only serves as a cool bit of world building and more of a sideline to your objective of getting home. Unlike previous games, needs are unlocked one by one in a sort of tutorial-style fashion. The mood system is probably the easiest to understand out of all the games, although it is the hardest to maintain. Needs usually appear by exploring the island and running into certain situations, or by the game simply adding it and telling you what it is. Needs are most easy to satisfy, believe it or not, but socialization is somewhat hard. Not for lack of entities to socialize with, however, since you can add more than one sim to play with, socialize with, and even delegate jobs to. Primates also inhabit the island. You can give them bananas, entertain them, and even name the animals once you've gotten to know them. Sims, however, require management, so yes, while you can assign jobs to them as they gather supplies, it really depends on how much time and energy you want to spend on that. I usually only play with one sim. It's really the socialization aspect that makes it hard to keep your Sims mood up. Like the Sims 2 pets, the cooking system from The Sims 2 appears once again. However, you must unlock recipe slots throughout the game. You're only started with one. Your ingredients are adapted to what you could typically find on an island. Expect fish and fruit to be the bulk of your Sims diet, unless you want to spend time gathering more luxurious materials or hunting hogs or trapping chickens. The crafting system consists of crafting benches and recipes. Not all recipes need a crafting bench, such as huts, beds, and other large constructs. You craft simple tools on a workbench from surrounding materials like driftwood and clamshells. These tools don't have any durability and last most of the game until you unlock better tool designs. Making these are mostly optional though. These tools will last you all throughout the game. Some tools though you do need if you want to build bigger and better, like the hammer for example. If you choose to, you can build a comfortable life on the island. I did this a lot while I was younger, but I opted to get home as quick as possible in the playthrough through this video. This included going through 3 islands and required you to gather skills and resources for building a raft to go to the second island and a canoe to go to the third. You can also visit previous islands anytime you wish, in case you forgot some materials or you want to visit a monkey friend. The Sims 2 Castaway was one of my favorite games growing up. I remember renting it from my local rental store, beating it every weekend. There was something magical about washing up on shore and making an island your own, exploring and building and doing what you want. Perhaps that is why I enjoy games like Minecraft, Don't Starve, and Harvest Moon. I love crafting, building, farming. It gives a sense of immersion that other games can't really provide. Not to mention just how different this game is from other Sims games. Even the PC version it's based on, Castaway Stories, there's quite a few differences. I have to recommend this one. It's extremely engaging. And so, we come to the end of our journey. Now, The Sims 3 has 2 distinct versions. The version for Nintendo Wii, and the version for Xbox 360/PlayStation 3. We'll be looking at the Wii version today because it's the one I have on hand. I'd also like to mention that the Sims 4 console version is pretty much on par with the PC version, feature complete, with no deviants. I won't be looking at that version for those reasons. This is the end. Like The Sims 2 Pets, there's no story mode or goals in this game, though the game challenges you to complete a lifetime wish within 50 days of starting. There is also no wants, no fears. Instead of these, your sim has wishes, which are somewhat like wants, but fears are omitted altogether. You can think of a lifetime wish as an ultimate goal for your life. This, along with a new mechanic, moodlets, are all represented via icons on the HUD and are difficult to discern. Needs are not present on your HUD at all. To view your needs and descriptions of your moodlets/wishes, you must open a menu, which is rather annoying and makes me spend extra effort to see how my sim/sims are doing. Now back to moodlets. Moodlets are small icons that add or detract from your overall mood based on your needs levels and things you experience in the game. These are also present in the PC version as well, but unlike the PC version, the game features a karma system of points that you can spend to affect other sims in positive or negative ways. I never really made use of the feature. It didn't really interest me. The more technical aspects of the game are, to put it nicely, ambitious but lacking. The game is open world, allowing your sim to explore the town with no major loading screens like The Sims 3. Rabbit holes also make up all the major buildings now, like the Surf Shack, restaurant, and hotel. According to my research, not even the Xbox 360 version has this feature, but that's probably for the best. The game is rather fuzzy looking, and while it shares quite a bit of assets with its PC counterpart, they're very obviously downgraded. When you visit lots occupied by other families, the game grinds to a halt to load in the lot's assets. This probably could have been eliminated by taking away the open world and loading in every lot you go to. But then again, you'd still be sitting through a loading screen, so I guess it doesn't really matter either way. Let's talk controls. They're awful. This game requires use of the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. You directly control your sim like previous games with the Nunchuck, and you can navigate the menu with the IR pointer on the Wiimote. The cursor feels weighty and slow, making you extra precise with your physical movements. It's kind of terrible. The camera system is also horrendous. You activate it with the Nunchuck's C button, stopping the player character from moving, since the camera uses the same stick on the Nunchuck that the player uses for moving. While the full suite of jobs from the Sims 3 base game appears to be present, you can get a job in tourism at the hotel, a building not seen in the PC version of the game, as well as a surf shack near the beach where you can surf. The Sims 3 for Wii tries to bring the third entry to the little console and then some, but it's clear this hardware and control scheme weren't correctly kept in mind when designing it. Though The Sims 3 on PC is known to have its issues with hardware too, I guess it's to be expected. I didn't really have much fun with it, and I mostly wished I were just playing the PC version of the game instead. Skip it and do what I wish I had done. Thank you all for watching this, and for sticking with me. I've never really done anything like this before, but I hope you enjoyed it regardless. I know I didn't cover every little detail of these games, but I hope I provided enough to engage you and entertain you. Thank you all once again, and until next time, I'm Professor Kagan, Professor in Ego Only.